I think everyone loves the sound of money, but no one loves the sound of money more than this little company called Blackrock. So if you don't know who Blackrock is, it's this company with $11.5 trillion in assets under management in 2024, right? But today, BlackRock is actually presenting us, the little investor, with a investment opportunity, right? So if we take a look at this, as I was scrolling through the new financial news section, I saw this article. So Trump hails reclaiming of Panama Canal after BlackRock leads a group to buy a stake, right? So spoiler alert, they're not buying a stake, they're basically buying the whole company. And who's the seller of these ports, right? So basically, to sum up the deal, BlackRock is buying ports from this Hong Kong company, and this Hong Kong company is a conglomerate called CK Hutchison. And I really cannot pronounce their name properly. I hope I pronounced their name properly. But they're buying all the assets in the Panama Canal, right? But they're not buying the Hong Kong and also China assets. So what's this company, CK Holdings, right? So CK Holdings is actually a company with $197 billion market cap. So you're like, okay, no big deal. They're selling off 19 billion out of their $197 billion, right? But you might have a caveat and see this. And the currency is actually Hong Kong dollars. So when we take a look at 197 Hong Kong dollars to 25 billion US dollars, right? Then you can see maybe why I start to think there might be a opportunity to make a cheap value investment here. So actually, when I was looking at it, it was a $23 billion market cap, but I only managed to buy shares today, right? Because you can see that actually the shares were up massively yesterday. So this is the BlackRock deal announcement, and then after this was when it opened, right? Because I didn't have enough time to research during this time because I was busy yesterday, so I only managed to buy in somewhere here. But even at these kind of prices, you might later see that it's still actually a deal, right? So if you don't know CK Holdings, I also didn't know much about CK Holdings, but I remember I watched a YouTube video once about it, right? And this is something that I really didn't know until I read these articles. So Li Ka-shing is actually one of the key figures in CK Holdings, right? And he's no longer that active in the company, but he did play a very big role as to how they got so big, right? So for those of you that don't know Li Ka-shing, he's actually a very big business magnate in Hong Kong and also China, right? And also the Asia region. You can see that his net worth is 37.8 billion, and in Asia, that's basically being a centi-billionaire, right? Because Asia's lifestyle is so cheap compared to US or Europe, right? But probably at that level, they're basically using the same amount of money, right? Because private jets and all cost the same. So let's take a look at my presentation on CK Hutchison, and then maybe you can decide for yourself whether it's a good investment or not. So CK Hutchison stock jumps 25% after the sale of the Panama ports, right? So this was very surprising because at the time when they sold the Panama ports, their market cap was basically almost the same as the 19 billion that was paid for the ports, right? And when you take a look later, they have an extensive list of businesses in their portfolio. So if you take a look, $180 billion Hong Kong dollar market cap when the deal was announced. So this is after the run-up, right? So imagine before the 20% run-up, it was about the cash value, right? So you can see that they are buying 90% and the sellers will receive $19 billion in cash, right? So this in this case is CK Hutchison. And next, when we take a look, Temasek acquires a stake in Watson, AS Watson, right? So AS Watson is basically this Watson pharmacy. You probably heard of it if you're in Asia. This Watson family pharmacy and healthcare, they sell all these healthcare things and they are pharmacy basically. So you can see that this is an article in 2014 and they had 10,500 stores at that time, and Temasek bought 25% of the company for $5.7 billion. Fast forward to 2025, or this is what, 2023, they have 16,800 stores, right? So probably the 5.7 billion would be much higher right now. But when you take a look, actually, it's a very poor performer throughout the year, right? Because when they are listed, you can see that they are not doing so well compared to the listing price as well. Which reminds me, just now I saw something. So yeah, when you take a look, actually they are up 1% on the all-time chart, right? So not a very good performance, right? Especially when it was listed in 2000, right? But obviously you can see that you receive a lot of dividends and stuff like that, but surely not enough compared to if you were just invested in a tech stock. But if we take a look next, at what's so interesting about CK, right? So take a look at all the ports, ports and related services, retail, infrastructure, Hutchison Telecom. So you can see that it's a very, very big conglomerate, right? And the ports is just one part of the business. And why is it that 40 million Hong Kong dollars worth of revenue, sorry, this is 40 billion Hong Kong dollars worth of revenue is worth 19 billion US dollars, right? So that's also a mystery to me, right? Because maybe this might be a strategically important asset that is not so focused on the price paid for it, right? So maybe they're not looking to make a very good investment, but then again, BlackRock has shareholders, so I don't know why they're doing this if they are not looking to make the best investment possible, right? But if you take a look at the profit attributed to ordinary shareholders, this is about 23.5 billion Hong Kong dollars, and based off 2023 sales, okay, I think this number is wrong then. It's about 10 times earnings. Yeah, so 10 times earnings. So this is my investment thesis, right? Let me run through it. Net asset value play. Notice how they sold the ports for 19 billion US dollar. That's why I got interested, right? And then super cheap. This is wrong. This 10 times earnings. I did some calculations wrong. I think I used the pre-tax income. That's why I got numbers like that. But anyways, I'm not going to correct this because I'm in the middle of the video. But I'm going to use a sum of the parts valuation. And you have to remember that conglomerates most of the time will trade at a discount because the market really doesn't know how to value a conglomerate that has different types of businesses. And also they might feel that it's not ran that efficiently because they have so many businesses, right? But if you just take a look at the numbers, it's very telling, right? So the current market cap, and I've updated this today, is $23.35 billion. The ports alone is $19 billion. The AS Watson stake that they have 75% of is 17.1 billion based off 2014 prices, right? I imagine this is closing in on 25 or even 30 billion at this current point in time. Okay, 30 billion seems unrealistic, but maybe 25 billion is more realistic. But we're going to stick to the 2014 prices, right? And then you can see CK Infrastructure. This is a publicly listed company that they own 75.67% of, and it's $13.14 billion. Telecom is very, very complicated when you go and look at the telecom numbers because they have a lot of geographies, right? They have in Europe, they have in Asia, they have in Australia, and then they have several listed companies here, their subsidiaries. So very complicated. I'll give it a rough valuation of 5 billion, but the likely value is actually significantly higher. But since it's a melting cube business, I'll use 5 billion, right? So if you take a look at one-time price to sales ratio, they could be trading up to a $11 billion valuation, right? So next, we're going to take a look at Power Asset Holdings, which they own 38.87% of, and that's $5.7 billion, right? So according to Google, they have 8.78 times earnings. And yeah, that's about what I get to as well, right? I said around 10 times earnings, right? If you're enjoying the video so far, do help me smash up the like button, hit subscribe, and also hit the bell button. This will help out the channel immensely, and I thank you very much. So when we run through a sum of the parts valuation, you can see 19 plus 7. Okay, I'll just skip to the end. Basically, you get this value, right? 64.17, right? And you use the market cap divided by 64.17, which is the sum of the parts that I have just came up with here, and you get 0.395x net AV, right? Even after the valuation. So NAV is net asset value, right? So disposal of the ports might be a sign that they might be potentially looking to divest, right? And but also might also just be because of Trump's pressure, right? Because Trump is pressuring people to sell off some assets, tariffs here, doing this, right? So the next thing I want to talk about is a possible special dividend, right? Because you can see that they get $19 billion of cash and their market cap is 25 billion. So either they are going to do acquisitions, pay off debt, or also they can do a special dividend, right? Because Hong Kong doesn't have dividend tax, right? I believe. So possible special dividend. And then next, what I hate about this as an investment, right? Of course, everything looks good. And this 0.395 NAV can actually be much lower, right? If you use much more aggressive assumptions, let's say this is 25 billion instead of 17.5 billion, and then the telecom is 10 billion instead of 5 billion, you can get to like a 0.3, maybe 0.3 times NAV or even something lower, right? But then I'm going to stick with all the conservative assumptions, and then I'm going to talk about what I dislike about this company, right? So what I dislike about the investment is that Asian companies often run the company like it's a private company, right? Even though they have public investors and stuff like that. So you can see that most of their holdings, they have a majority holding, right? Look at this, 75% for this company, and then the other one is 40%. This is basically giving you voting control of the company, right? And then when you take a look at their smaller companies, not so significant to the bottom line here, but those companies are like few $100 million worth. They're also owning like 75%, 80% sometimes. And the question is like, if you are going to own so much of the company, why even take the company public, right? And that's also maybe to have some float of the valuation, to have some liquidity, to borrow money here, borrow money there. Maybe that's the reason, right? So the last thing is Li Ka-shing's son Victor received about 80 million Hong Kong dollars as compensation, right? So this is to counteract this point, right? Because they can be paying him much more than this, right? And I don't think anyone will be complaining because it's a $20 billion US dollar market cap, right? And 80 billion Hong Kong is like what, 10 million or 12, 13, 14 million Hong Kong dollars, something like that, right? So my conclusion is that this is quite an attractive net asset value play. And if you take a look at all their assets, they are actually quality assets, right? They are not that low quality, because you take a look at the dividend yield is 5 point something percent. Another one, so this is 4.75%. This is for the infrastructure company, and then for the holding company, you're getting about 4.78%, right? So the main play that I'm talking about is buying the holding company. And in fact, I've already bought some shares, right, today morning before I got the chance to record this video, because I had a really busy day. But I think at this point in time, I have a small position. I need to investigate further their business segments. And that's another thing that I really don't like, right? Because they have so many business lines that is so complicated. Like if you have one company like Facebook or something like that, you know that it's all about social media, but they have their tentacles all over the place, and it's very hard to value these kinds of companies, right? But from the net asset value, you can say that most likely you won't lose money on this, right? Even though you can see that from here, maybe they were saying the same thing, and then it went down like what, 20-30%. But at the end, the value will be realized, right? Because the net asset value is just. And then the last part that I want to mention, right? The ports, right? I don't even include the Hong Kong and China ports, right? Because there will be leftover valuation, right? And I think those numbers are also in the billions, right? So yeah, that's about all I wanted to share today. If you did enjoy the video, do help me smash up the like button, hit subscribe, and also hit the bell button. With that being said, have a fantastic day ahead, and peace out.